Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Happy National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. I'm so excited that you're here with me in my kitchen so that I can show you how to make a simple and delicious vegan chocolate chip cookie recipe from Afro-Vegan Society's website. So this recipe is a little special. This is a peanut butter chocolate chip cookie recipe. And as always, everything we do here at Afro-Vegan Society is vegan, it's dairy-free, and it's always delicious, still decadent, but also nutritious. So I have all my ingredients here, and I'm so glad that you popped in impromptu today, or if you're watching the replay, I hope you enjoy this. If you can see, I have already shared in the chat the link to the actual chocolate chip cookie recipe we're going to be using today from Afro-Vegan Society's website, but I'll definitely share it again if you don't see it. It should be in the description of the video, either on Facebook or YouTube, no matter where you're watching. So, hello everyone, thanks for tuning in again, and let's get right into the ingredients. So, I just want to give you a little preview of what we're going to be making today. And we're live using StreamYard, so it has some great features. So, I just want to show you what we're working with. So, these are the cookies. This is kind of disorienting to do. You get it. These are the cookies we're making from Afro-Vegan Society's blog. Now, when I originally made them, I used vegan chocolate chunks, but they're completely interchangeable. So whatever you have on hand is perfect. The vegan chocolate chips I'm using, I actually got from a brand called Imperfect Foods, but I feel like Trader Joe's sells vegan chocolate chips. There's so many brands that have vegan chocolate chip options. So check out what's available and give it a try. All right, we're gonna hide that, and then we're gonna go ahead and get into our ingredients today. So let me show the ingredients on the screen. Okay, so for the ingredients today, we have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. All right, we're doing 2 cups of all-purpose flour today. I'm using a vegan, obviously, all-purpose flour, but a gluten-free, but traditional wheat-based all-purpose flour works great as well. We're also using 1 stick or 1/2 cup of vegan butter. So I'm using Miyoko's butter today. And this is my favorite vegan plant-based butter. I always pick it up when it's on sale. But Country Crock, and I can't believe it's not butter, also make vegan butter options as well as Earth Balance. So there are lots of options out there to get a nice, rich butter to make your vegan cookies with. We also have, let's see, 3/4 cup of creamy peanut butter. So as you can see, I have peanut butter in various states of use. So we're going to scoop that out when the time comes to add that into the recipe. But this is somewhere where you can swap it out depending on what you have or what you prefer. You could use almond butter, you could use cashew butter, pistachio butter. Any of those would be delicious alternatives to peanut butter if you're not in the mood for peanut butter in these cookies. But they're going to give it a really nice structure and a really nice soft chew. So it's going to make a delicious addition to these cookies. We also have 1 cup of brown sugar on the ingredients list. So for me, I had to improvise a little bit. All I had was granulated cane sugar, but I took some molasses because brown sugar is simply molasses and sugar mixed together. So I took a tablespoon of molasses and added that on top. It's going to get nice and incorporated. If you don't have molasses, you can skip it. But I added some molasses to my sugar today so I could still get that richness, that chewiness from that flavor when I didn't have brown sugar in my kitchen. So that's a cool swap you do. Next up, we have 4 teaspoons of milled chia seeds. So this is going to act as a binder. So instead of using eggs, we have milled chia seeds here. And then we also have 6 tablespoons of plant milk. So that's basically like a 1/4 cup plus an 1/8 cup or 6 tablespoons. But that's going to help activate our vegan egg here. So I'll show you how to mix that together. It really thickens up nicely and gives a great binder. And then we're going to get into some more flavoring here. We have a 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. You could do less, but I like a little bit of saltiness in my cookies. It balances out all the really sweet flavors that are usually going on. So 1/2 teaspoon of that. We also have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. This is a nice quality vanilla extract. Once again, just gives that nice base flavor. And then we have 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And we have two-thirds cup of vegan chocolate chips. You could also use chocolate chunks, but this is what I'm using today. So those are ingredients. Now let me take this off the screen so I can sit up straight. And let's get straight into preparation. So in the instructions on the website, it basically just says add all the wet ingredients to the bowl, mix them together, then add all the dry ingredients. But I'm going to show you a little bit of the technique I use to make everything come together really smoothly here. So I have my milk chia seeds, and let's see, make sure y'all can see what's going on here. So I have my milk chia seeds. I'm going to add in my plant milk so this can start binding together to make our vegan egg replacer here. So we just want this to get nice and thick for this plant milk to get distributed in. And wow, everybody is here tuning in. So thanks for watching. Go ahead and shout out where you're from in the comments. And if you've made vegan chocolate chips before or chocolate chip cookies before, what brand of vegan chocolate chips do you like? Where do you usually get them from? Because it wasn't always as easy as it is now to find vegan chocolate chips. Now that I know what I'm looking for, it's a lot easier. But I mean, still, it's not the simplest. I know Wegmans sells vegan friendly chocolate chips. And also I find that if you look in the international aisle of the supermarket and look in the kosher aisle, oftentimes they will have Parev foods, and those are oftentimes dairy free and therefore vegan. So always check the ingredients label, of course, but it's good to know what go-to brands you can work with. So yeah, now I'm here. I'm just working this in. The first plant milk I put in absorbed really quickly. So I'm just going to let this sit. Basically, this is just going to expand and continue to absorb. But this is our vegan egg replacement. And this is our almond milk and our milk chia seeds together here. So we have those in. Next up, it is time to go in with our vegan butter. I'm using this whole stick of Miyoko's vegan butter. You can use whatever you like. But yeah, I'm a fan of the Miyoko's all the way. So this one's great. But like I said, Country Crock has a plant-based butter that you can get. It's usually really affordable. Also vegan, I can't believe it's not butter. Those are really affordable ones that you can typically find at your grocery store. And this has been sitting on my counter for maybe 2 or 3 hours. It's summertime and it's warm in my kitchen, so it doesn't take too much for it to get up to room temp. And also vegan butters tend to melt faster than cow's milk or dairy-based butter. So that is something to keep in mind. You don't want it to get too melty for this recipe. So you don't have to maybe sit it out on the counter as long. So I'm just going to break this up with my spoon just a little bit, just to make the mixing with our sugar that much easier. And that's good enough, I think. So now we're going to go in with our sugar and molasses mix. Like I said, I'm using this as a swap for brown sugar since I didn't have any on hand. But like I said, this is a great swap too. If you really like the deep, rich flavor that brown sugar gives, no matter what type of sweetener you're using, if you're using agave nectar or maple syrup or, coconut sugar, anything like that, you can always just add in a tablespoon of molasses to whatever sweetener you're using to get that nice, rich color, that nice, deep flavor. So very, very, very flexible. So now I'm just basically creaming together my vegan butter and my sugar, and I already spilled some. Okay, be careful not to spill it everywhere like me, because that's something I tend to do quite a bit when I'm cooking. And we're just using the back of the spoon to kind of mash the sugar into the butter so we get a nice uniform texture here. And the molasses is looking a little bit streaky right now, but it will combine evenly. Just be patient and work it in. Okay. All right, that looks great. All right. All right. Perfect. So that is our creamed vegan butter, granulated sugar, and a little bit of molasses. And oh, look, we have people who Dream Your Sunshine actually sells vegan cookies. Very cool. And someone from Atlanta is tuning in on YouTube, and they say they're from Atlanta and they use Kroger brand chocolate chips. That's awesome. And Dream Your Sunshine uses Trader Joe's, and she's based in the Bronx. So shout out where you're from and where you get vegan chocolate chips from. I definitely ordered them online in bulk before. Like I said, I found them at Wegmans, Trader Joe's. I found them at like Giant or Safeway in the kosher section sometimes. usually oftentimes too, the the organic store brands will oftentimes have a vegan chocolate chip option. So chocolate chips are kind of easier because milk chocolate is really what's really hard to find in a vegan format. But if you can't find it, yeah, if you pick the right dark chocolate brand and just chop that up, then you can use that in your recipe as well. So I have a question here. Is it possible to overmix, or does that only apply to certain recipes? You can overmix a little bit. Well, for example, with this particular recipe, I am trying to move relatively quickly and not overmix because my butter is melting just because it's plant-based butter, and so it melts quicker. Um, but like making um, usually that applies to making things with wheat flour because wheat flour has gluten in it, and so the more you stir the wheat flour up, the tougher it can get and the drier it can get because you're activating that protein in the wheat. I particularly am using gluten-free flour, so I don't run into that as much. But I mean, you want to mix it till it's well combined. But I mean, lumps you can usually get away with sometimes in like cake batter and stuff, but we don't really want too many lumps in our cookie dough, except for our chocolate chips. So flax seeds would also work as an egg substitute. Yes, flax seeds would definitely work. I like chia seeds. I think they have a little bit of a milder flavor, but lots of people use flax egg. Flax egg. That is the name I often see people refer to when they talk about vegan baking. So great option. So I just eyeballed in about 3/4 cup of my peanut butter here. Like I said, if you're allergic to peanuts or you don't like peanut butter, you could also use cashew butter or almond butter. Both of those are absolutely delicious. But I am using good old standby peanut butter today. You can use, Jiffy, but you could also use a natural brand. The options are endless, and ultimately, it's all going to result in a really delicious vegan cookie for you. Ooh, have you used aquafaba for these cookies? No, I have not. I think that aquafaba might make the batter too wet, so I have not used aquafaba. I would say, like, for if you're making a flaxseed egg or a chia seed egg, instead of using plant milk, you could use aquafaba in milled chia seeds or aquafaba in milled flax seeds. You could do that, but I haven't used it as just the sole replacement. So now, speaking of our vegan egg replacement, I just dumped in my milled chia seeds mixed with my plant milk, and we're just going to once again continue to mix this on around. So, like I said, we're moving pretty quickly. Our base is getting loose really quick. Last time I made these was in the winter. So the butter was definitely a little bit more stable, but it's all good because, you can mix this cookie dough together. And if it's a little too runny, you can totally sit it in the fridge in a container for like an hour or two, just so that everything can get solidified again. That is a great option for just making the texture work in your favor. But the wetness is cool because that just means that, all the wet ingredients are really going to be absorbed by our flour here. So nothing to worry about. If it's looking a little more loose than you're used to at this stage in the game, that's okay. It's going to be just fine. Like I said, just chill it in the fridge for a couple hours if you need to. But it's a pretty forgiving dough. So I see a couple lumps in here. That's just from the chia seeds coagulating a little bit with the plant milk. So I'm just once again using the back of my spoon to kind of mash that out. But overall, I think we're looking good. So now I'm going to go in with 2 cups of our all-purpose flour. And someone said if one uses almond butter instead of peanut butter, is the amount the same? Yes, it is exactly the same. So we're going to go in with our 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And then I'm going to just like sprinkle the baking powder on top just to start to help that get intermixed with everything along with the sea salt. Okay. So stack all my bowls, try to keep it clean, quick area as I go. Ooh, and I almost forgot the vanilla. So we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'm going to eyeball and be very generous. I love the flavor of vanilla extract in baked goods. So we added in our vanilla extract, all of our dry ingredients, and now we're just going to take our time and start to get this incorporated because we don't want this flour flying everywhere. Okay. All right, and our dough is coming together really well. So, like I said, just running my spoon along the edges, kind of gently just folding everything in to start, giving everything a chance to come together. You could do this in a stand mixer if you want to. You could do this in a food processor even. Just put in all your wet ingredients, process in the food processor, and then add your dry ingredients second and just kind of pulse to get everything well combined. If you have gadgets and you prefer to use them, you totally can use them with this recipe as well. I did not do this in advance, but I would suggest too, especially if you're using gluten-free flours, to whisk your flour a little bit just to knock out any lumps. I'm seeing some in here as I'm mixing in. I'm just kind of smashing them as I see them, just to make sure we don't have any like powder bombs when we bake our cookies. But that is something to be mindful of. You could also sift the flour in. I always like to create as few steps in between me and the end product as possible. So just be observant and flexible while you're cooking. Pay attention to your dough, and you're going to get a great result. This cookie is also a great base because you could add in pecans, raisins, walnuts. If you want to add anything and make it into like a dumped chocolate chip cookie that has extra stuff in it, I don't know, pretzels, whatever you want. You could also add stuff like that into this dough as well. So folding in, and you can see this dough is come together really nicely. So this is our cookie dough. Okay, I'm not seeing any more lumps. Our dough is looking nice and even. And so now we are finally at the best part of this recipe, which is adding in our chocolate chips. So I have here 2/3 cup of chocolate chips. You could do more. You could do a cup. You could do 3/4 cup. You could do as chocolate as you like. I like getting a bite of chocolate chip in every bite of my cookie, but I don't like it to overwhelm. I don't want to feel like I'm eating like just a cookie oozing with chocolate. So 2/3 cup works well for me. But if you like more chocolate chips, add more chocolate chips. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put most of these in, but I'm going to reserve a few just so that I can put them on top of the cookies so that you can see the chocolate chips on the top when they're baked. So now I'm just going to take my spoon here, fold everything in. To me, this is a good ratio of chocolate to cookie dough. But like I said, if you like more, add more. Feel free. Okay. Just kind of scooping the dough over. Okay. Now, before you start working on your dough, something that's always important to do is to preheat your oven. So for this recipe, you want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees before you start doing all this. So by the time you're mixing your dough up and getting your cookies on the tray, it's ready to bake. But what we're going to do now, because our chocolate chips are really nicely combined into this dough, got a really good looking dough here. These cookies are going to be amazing. I love to make a big batch of cookies, and usually what I end up doing is baking half of the dough right away and then putting the other half in the freezer. And then even still, I'll probably like save half of the baked cookies, share them with whoever, but I usually have enough to put about half the cookies I bake in the freezer as well, just so like you always have a snack on deck. So you don't have to do this from scratch every time. It's not super complicated, not too many steps, but makes it that much easier to have a sweet treat on hand, and you know everything that went into it. So these are really nourishing, wholesome ingredients, but that are still sweet and delicious as well. So you can have the best of both worlds. And I've seen a few people liking this video. So if you're enjoying this cooking demo so far, please give this video a like and subscribe to Afro-Vegan Society on YouTube so that you don't miss out on any new content that we have coming at you. All right, so our dough is looking good. Like I said, at this point, it would be a good point if you wanted to firm your dough up a little bit to cover it up and put it in the fridge for about an hour or two just to let that vegan butter get more re-solidified. But I'm going to work with it as it is. So here I have my baking sheet. Let's see. I'm going to move that here. Hopefully the sound is still good with me moving my mic. Okay. I made a bit of a mess, but not too bad. I'm proud of myself. So let's do that. Sweep it up after. So we have our baking pan here. I'm going to bake in my air fryer. So my temperature settings are a little bit different. In my air fryer, I bake these cookies at 300 degrees. But in your traditional oven, you're going to want to cook around 375. Obviously, the heat in everyone's oven is different, so you may need to adjust the heat or the cook time based off of how hot your oven gets and what texture you like your cookies to be. But yeah, we got this going at on our little air fryer pan. And then I'm just going to put them here. And basically, I'm going to eyeball this just using the spoon. Basically, we're doing a heaping tablespoon, which is about the equivalent of like 2 measured tablespoons of dough. And I just like to use the spoons here to kind of form my ball. Get that set down. And then we're going to go back in with our fingers after we get everything on to just flatten it out and shape it. So because there's peanut butter in this, if you've made peanut butter cookies before, you know they don't really spread out like chocolate chip cookies do. You usually have to like press them down. When my mom and I used to make peanut butter cookies growing up, we always used a fork to flatten them. I don't necessarily want that look for these cookies, so I'm just going to use my fingertips to flatten these out a little bit. They will spread a bit more once they bake. They're going to more so rise as opposed to like spread out because we use baking powder because we want a nice chewy cookie. It's going to be really crispy on the outside and soft in the center. But saying all that to say, oh yeah, if you use baking powder, that makes your cookies spread out, get thinner and crispier. I love warm chocolate chip cookies because they're soft. So I want a good balance between crispy on the outside and soft in the middle, and it stays soft for a few days. So that's why we use baking powder in this particular recipe as well. So I'm going to be able to fit about 5 cookies on this pan. I kind of staggered them. So now I'm just using my fingertips. As you can see, it's not really sticky. There's enough oil and stuff in here that I can touch it and there's not like dough all over my finger. So I'm just going to flatten that out a bit. Like I said, it's not going to spread a whole lot. So if you like a thick and chewy cookie, you could leave it a little thicker. I want it to be spread out pretty nicely. So I spread it and then I kind of go with my fingers around the edges just to get a nice circular shape. If you have like an ice cream scoop or a melon baller or something, you can totally use that to get a more perfect shape from the beginning. This is also a dough that you could put in parchment paper and line it up like in a row and then roll it up and freeze it so that you can make it like those cookies you get from the refrigerator section that you just slice and bake. This is a great dough for that as well. So you have so many preparation options, but we get to cookies ASAP, as little prep as possible. So actually that's going to be too much. So I'm going to spread these out a little bit more. So I was able to fit 4 cookies on this tiny little pan. I could probably fit about, 9 or 10 on like a traditional size baking sheet. So this is personally perfect for me. And like I said, I'm probably going to put about half the dough in the fridge after this demo and put the other half into the freezer. So I have some more for later this weekend. And then I also have some more for like in a few weeks when I get another sweet tooth and it's ready to go. So, oh, Sadie says, they look so good. Thank you so much. So these are how our cookies are looking on our tray, but I want the chocolate chips to be a little bit more visible. And so that's why I saved some of these chocolate chips. So I'm just going to take like 3 or 4 per cookie and place them on top. So we know it's a chocolate chip cookie we're getting into here, right? That's what we want to do. And I used to spend a lot more time like rolling out my cookies when I would be putting them on the pan because I'm like, well, how do they get the cookies to look like this? I watch enough recipe videos and food bloggers to know that they're not just getting their cookies to look like that. They place those chocolate chips. So if you want your chocolate chip cookies, your vegan chocolate chip cookies to look like Chips Ahoy, go ahead and place those chips. So here are our chocolate chip cookies. They're ready to go in the oven. Like I said, in a traditional oven, you're going to bake these for 15 to 18 minutes in a 375 degree preheated oven. I'm going to cook mine for about 15 to 18 minutes in a 300 degree oven in my air fryer or my convection oven. So the temperature is a little lower. Cook time is about the same, maybe a little bit shorter. But yeah, these are going in the oven. And because I prepared in advance, I made a half batch of these cookies. So let me pull them out right now. All right. So these are my prepared vegan chocolate chip cookies, and they are so delicious, beautifully golden brown, piping hot. They smell amazing. These cookies are so good, really simple to prepare. Hopefully, you saw how easy it was to find these ingredients, put everything together. It's basically just like making any other vegan chocolate or chocolate chip cookies you're used to making before you might have went vegan. And for me personally, it was years between me going vegan and me actually making chocolate chip cookies at home. And once I started making them for myself, I realized how easy it was, and that it's not something that I had to leave in the past. It's something I could enjoy whenever I wanted. So, no matter what stage of the vegan journey you're on, whether you're experimenting, whether you are new to this, whether you've been at this for several years, I hope this recipe is one that you will incorporate into your routine, especially when you have a little bit of a sweet tooth, to enjoy for yourself or share with your family and friends. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Like I said, if you enjoyed this demo, go ahead, like this video, subscribe to Afro-Vegan Society's YouTube page so you don't miss out on any new content. The AVS crew is going to be back again at the end of the month with a all new virtual happy hour, so you don't want to miss that. And I'm so glad that you all tuned in, left your comments today. It's always so fun and interactive to make these things and share them with people. So I'm so glad you all enjoyed them and hung out with me this afternoon. Very impromptu, very last minute. And I will see y'all again soon. All right. Bye, everybody.